I have been getting a lot of horse behavior questions this week, which is good. It makes me happy because that means that lots of people are thinking and questioning and not just doing the things or doing things with their horses the way they've always done them. One of the things that I think is, if I was to put a theme to this week, it's looking at obviously unwanted behavior and how often there is a disconnect in people trying to understand the horse and why they're seeing what they're seeing, and not recognizing how many factors such as health and diet and physical potential pain issues, how many horses are mentally defensive towards humans and their interaction, how many horses are sleep deprived, how many horses are dysfunctional in their herd or wherever they're living is causing a basically constant state of concern. So many of these different things, saddle fit issues, trauma from the past in their initial education, all of these different things contribute to the horse that you have before you today. And we want to be empathetic towards what the horse has experienced and has been taught, even if it was unintentionally taught by humans. But we also need to recognize that we have an opportunity with every interaction with our horse to be rebuilding that horse's trust, and his willingness to try. Creating a safe environment for him should be our number one priority. And I find that when I get asked these questions about, well, how do I help my horse change his physical behavior? There is little empathy from the human to recognize that just because the human is ready to move forward does not mean that all the things the horse has previously been unintentionally taught, or the potential trauma, even if to the human it doesn't look like anything scary or traumatic has happened, has occurred for the horse. And that first we need to undo whatever has gone on in his past in order to have what we might call a clean slate to then build from a new foundation on, and build up from, in creating a trusting partnership with the horse. And this is something that a lot of people aren't signed up for in thinking of their horse time. There's many people who buy, the older quiet horse that they're thinking they're getting the bomb proof, the husband safe horse, whatever you want to call it. Every 10 years they change the name of it, but it's the same thing, which to me, when I see those, are often shut down and some of the most dangerous horses because they've contained for so long that by the time you do something that does open Pandora's box, you have all of that previously stuffed emotions, fear, and defensiveness that come literally physically exploding out. And you get people who are thinking, well, I only sent my horse to the trainer for 30 or 60 or 90 days. And so they have basically a clean slate, let's go forward, not realizing that unfortunately so many of the people who are working with young horses nowadays, one, have very limited experience in horse handling despite hanging out a professional sign, two, have very little adaptability in what they offer in their quote training programs. I did a big write-up on this on my blog and some of my Facebook groups this week, and that lack of adaptability to cater to what the individual horse needs and just kind of creating a one-size-fits-all problem can create incredibly traumatized horses that it takes so much to undo. And also, even if often trainers, that can get a quality start with the horse, often the trainers don't always have the words to teach the human. And, 30, 60, 90 days is nothing on a horse. When people take a horse home and they think they now have a trained horse with, 3 months or less riding, it's an illusion. And unfortunately, so many people get hurt because they are under the idea that they now have a trained horse, as if it was, a mechanical object that was responding to them, and it's not. And the owner is not going to do things as the trainer. Most trainers unfortunately don't keep owners in the loop. They don't work and teach the owner. They don't work with the owner and the horse together. And so the owner goes home with a lot of gray area as to not knowing what's been done, how things have been done, and the horse has been handled or dealt with a certain way. And even if the horse is in a good spot, if the owner doesn't have a clue, it really doesn't do them any good, because it's like speaking a completely different language. And then you see all of these unfortunately exciting events happen where usually humans and sometimes horses get hurt. And, by the time you're coming into these older horses' lives, you have no idea how much what they've been through, where they've been. But, When I talk about these assessments, when I talk about these checking in with your horse, it's so that you are not under the false illusion that everything is fine without realizing, what the horse is actually experiencing. And for so many people, the task is, I need to get my horse to stand still so I can get on. I need my horse to do the flying lead change. I need my horse to jump this fence. I need my horse to get this time in the gaming event. And there's no looking at what are all the quality pieces we need to put together in order to create this ideal outcome. And if we first focus on those small quality segments, there are probably going to be some holes in there that we need to fill or help educate or help clarify for the horse in a way that has value to him versus in a way that is just increasing his fear. And for most of these anxious, quote, bad behavior horses that I meet, that I get asked about, they've just basically been critiqued their entire human interaction, whether it's been a few months or years or decades. And the horse has no reason to participate, and the horse has no reason to trust, and the horse has no reason to try, and the human just keeps adding more pressure and more critique and more after the fact responses. And then they keep going, why does he keep offering things I don't want? And I can only say all this stuff until I'm blue in the face, and I know there's lots of support on lots of different platforms, but the more we can bring this up so that it is a common and everyday conversation that humans need to educate themselves in understanding the level of sensitivity and awareness the horse has constantly as to everything that a person is doing. When you get out of your car and you're walking into the barn and your horse sees you from 200 feet away, he's already reading you. And if you're thinking about groceries or work or stress or friends or social hour or whatever, he's already assessing that your brain is not present. All the times that you might carry some emotional troubles and go to the barn so that you feel like you have an outlet and you're dumping that on your horse, you are teaching him something. All the times that your horse went to stop or slow down in his behaviors and you never stopped to look at his brain and say, why is he slowing down? Or is he distracted? Or is he fearful? And instead you just added more pressure to make him comply or say, oh, we've been here before, keep going, you're fine. All of these everyday scenarios, people are constantly teaching their horse to be defensive. And then they go, why is he offering unwanted behavior? So these are just a bunch of things that came up just because I had so many questions this week. I don't even have time to get to all of the questions. I've been on the road in clinics and doing different things, but I just really feel like this is something that I just want to open the floodgates to these conversations, because I see so many videos that are like, how to make your horse not spook. And then they start with, after your horse is spooked, this is how you contain it. Or if you think your horse is going to spook, this is how you contain it. Or how to get your horse to trailer load. I saw one the other day where the guy was having a gal flag her horse trotting in a circle until the best option was for the horse to jump into the trainer. How practical is that? Like, how realistic is that? And, I don't want to harp on different ways of doing things, but it comes back to, what are all these horses experiencing? The flagging, the driving, the making, the cranking, the adding more tack and more pressure, the chaotic human, and then we somehow expect that everything's going to come out soft and reasonable and willing. There's no way. And I'm always say, I'm amazed that more horses don't hurt more people, because there's so many scenarios that people put horses in that are completely unreasonable, and they challenge the horse to get it right. And it's amazing as many do, and still take care of the human to a certain degree. So if you're finding your horse is anxious or rigid, and even if you've had the best of intentions, and even if you've taken lessons or done, your research or this and that, if you're finding that your horse's feedback is showing you there's mental chaos or defensiveness, there's unwanted physical behaviors, you are going too fast. Doesn't matter how many times you think you've done something, you are going too fast. Please slow down, for your horse's sake, for your own sake, in learning and educating yourself, in experimenting with your horse, in practicing non-critical communication that is supportive rather than reactive and after the fact, offering your horse positive alternatives, learning to build a relationship with him instead of having this demanding, critical expectation and then being frustrated when he gives you all these unwanted responses. I'd love for you to comment. Thanks for joining me.